Hi there, my name is Kendrick and welcome to another ENFP male interview. Today I get to interview an awesome panel of an army of this quadra type. So today we're going to cover the quadra of the INFJ, ENFJ, ESTP, and ISTP. And we're going to have everyone introduce themselves, starting with Cole. So Cole, go for it, man.
Hello, my name is Cole. I am an INFJ. In OPS, I am blast, play, consume, sleep, audio. And so I kind of just interested in typology, OPS, and just the whole MBTI stuff. I make some videos on OP and just MBTI as a whole. And that's who I am. So next person.
Cole, you got to throw the potato to someone else.
Okay, potatoes going to Shane.
All right. I'm Shane Starr, ESTP. I was typed by Dave and Shan back in 2019 as SETI, consume, play, blast, sleep blast. And I haven't really given the other stuff too much thought, with the sexual modalities or anything like that. But I'm into MBTI, socionics, also Enneagram, but OPS is my go-to system.
All right. Hot potato.
I'll go to Joyce.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joyce, and I'm an INFJ jumper. I'm double feminine, NITI, sleep, consume, play, blast. And I have a YouTube channel called Type Talks.
All right.
Oh, and the potato will go to Ian.
What's up, everybody? My name is Ian. I am an ESTP jumper, an OP that is SEFE, play, consume, sleep, blast. The modality is tester. And I am big into OP. I mean, I've done MBTI in the past, but since finding OP, I've been really studying that pretty hard. And I run a clubhouse session for OP related content every Sunday at 4 p.m. I'm going to next pass it to Uzair.
Yo, my name is Uzair. I'm an ISTP jumper and sleep, consume, blast, audio. And what else? That's it, right?
Yeah, dude, your mic kind of cut out there for a second. Can you say that again?
Shit. Yes, say the whole thing. My name is Uzair, and I'm an ISTP jumper, sleep, consume, blast. And I'll pass it to Rob.
All right. Hey, I'm a ENFJ jumper. My name is Rob. Sorry, I forgot that part. Double feminine, FESC, play, consume, sleep, blast. I have a website where I write about OP, subjectivepersonality.com. So you can check that out if you're interested. I also have a YouTube channel. It's just Rob in Reality, which I post on infrequently, especially compared to Joyce and Kendrick here.
All right, Rob, thanks for that. Kind of funny that you forgot your name. So definitely EJ there. I forgot your identity.
Get to the observer
guys.
part.
So since Rob was already talking, let's start with our extrovert feeling. You guys extrovert feeling. I don't have that. So it's you guys. Who wants to jump in first and kind of just share how they experience their extrovert feeling compared to like the other guys here? And everyone here, feel free to jump in and ask questions if someone says something that you find interesting and you want to chime in or ask questions. So Rob, since you're the lead FE here, why don't you take the ball here and kind of share your FE with everyone? Okay,
well, so FE is for me very much about like tracking the tribe. And I don't know how much you want to get into modalities, but just trying to understand like what the tribe is interested in. And I feel like that's constantly changing. So I'm like constantly trying to like keep up with what everybody is interested in so that I can sort of be able to make decisions that will land with them and resonate with them in a positive way. So when I'm talking, I'm trying to like speak the language that I feel like they're expecting me to give them and stuff like that. So it's not causing like friction. It's almost like the opposite of the block banging in terms of like we're trying to have this land softly. So that's a lot of what I'm trying to like figure out and just understand what is going to cause the least friction. I don't know if others see it that same way. So, Joyce nodding.
Well, why don't we go with Joyce then?
Yeah, I can relate to everything Rob said. And for me, how I experience it is sometimes I'll look at how other people are feeling or valuing or liking things before I decide how I feel or value or like something. So it's like waiting until I've understood the tribe stance or consensus before I fully cement how I feel about something. Because it's like remaining flexible until I understand the tribe point of view. And sometimes feminine FE can show up in the form of being agreeable and being movable, or seeming that way. And I find with my extroverted feeling, sometimes I don't know what I value or feel sometimes. And sometimes people can know it quicker than I can. So they'll say, oh, you're feeling this. And I'll go like, I might be feeling that. Yeah, I'm just going to move with your opinion of my feelings. Great. So Cole, what are your thoughts?
Okay, interesting. In terms of extroverted feeling, I kind of see it from the perspective of always trying to assist others in the sense of finding what they like to do first, or trying to get to the bottom of what they kind of value and what they like, and then kind of seeing what they want to do, and after kind of just assisting them on that level. I also do it on I also see myself doing it on a mass scale. So, for example, I don't just do it to one individual, but the more I just speak to people, converse with them, and see what people like, I can see what I can see the trends of what people like on a base. I can see what people like. So on that instance, I see what people like, and then I just try and help them with what they like. And for example, if I speak to somebody, they say they like this, they like X, Y, Z. I can go to another individual and say, okay, based on the past few people I've spoken to, they like X, Y, Z. Then this could possibly work for you. How about this? Would you want to try this? And if they say, okay, yeah, but actually, really deep down inside, I want to do this. I want to do it this way. Then I kind of get some more data from them, and then say, okay, cool. The next type of people, the next batch of people I speak to, I kind of use that recent events of and try and help them. So all I'm trying to say in a nutshell is I try and assist people, but I first find out what they want and what kind of people are kind of seeing that the tribe kind of wants or society wants. That's my take on that. Uzair, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, so I'm extroverted feeling less. So let's see. I don't probably have a whole lot to say about it. No, I think I don't know. I think maybe the way that I see it is that it's just that like what is like seeing feelings on a spectrum, or like it's kind of assuming that whatever like the subjective reactions people have to the stimulus, right? That's feelings, I guess. It's kind of like universal in some sense. Like if someone is in a situation, I feel comfortable like venturing a guess, like, oh, I would probably feel that way if I was in that situation. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of assuming that we're all kind of like navigating the world in a way that like, assuming that we'd all kind of feel similarly in similar circumstances, right? And then, yeah. So I think that there's like, there's just that baseline assumption of like when you're going through the world of like, I don't know that I'm kind of lost in my train of thought, but just kind of like I think that's how I relate to it. I do assume that anything that I am like experientially going through is like universal. Probably anybody has gone through it. Like if you're a human being and you have like certain emotions and reactions, like probably anybody has felt that, right? And it's not that difficult to put yourself in another person's shoes experientially, because yeah, I know how I would feel in that situation, and they probably feel maybe not exactly the same, but similar. Ian, what do you think?
You're muted, man.
You're muted.
Hold up, my bad. So I'm like a combination. I'm hearing what Cole's saying. It's very similar. I'm gathering what people are doing, people are saying, people are valuing, right? And by interacting with other people, I'm picking up on whatever how they feel about stuff, what they're into. A lot of it is just for information purposes, largely, but it becomes useful down the line somewhere. So it really doesn't have a purpose other than really like connecting with people initially, but it becomes something later on when there's time to take action of some sort. Then I'm able to use it to, and like just like Cole saying, to help other people get things done. You come up with an idea, figure things out. But just having a pulse on what what everybody's feeling about something, what's viable. You walk in a room, you get a feel for, what is safe to talk about in this room, what's safe, what you're not going to talk about, those types of situations. So just being attuned to what's going to work in terms of people, but as far as value spectrum, what's good and what's not. Shane.
All right. It's interesting to hear everyone else go first, because I think if you have extroverted feeling high, you're really skilled at it. If you have it low, you're aware of that, so you're more careful with it. Having it third is unique in that I have enough of it to do well in sales. I'm in apartment leasing, and I can get with people on their level, meet them there, and smile, play the part of the used car salesman, and get them to lease an apartment with my complex. But where it backfires is overplaying it sometimes, overestimating my connection with the feeling of the group. And sometimes I can say something that's borderline inappropriate, or a joke that I think's funny, hits a few people the wrong way. It's a little bit of a roguish feeling or function rather in my case. So it's fun. I like it. It's masculine in me. So that's the part that comes out. That's the part that people see, most probably. And it delightfully charming at times, and it can be roguish at times, and it can make me look like a real jerk sometimes. And yeah, that's about all I would say about it.
All right, cool guys. A few comments. So when Cole was talking earlier, he sounded like a coach, like someone was like coaching you. I was like, oh, like he's giving us like a group like intervention or something. I'm just kidding, just making fun of you. But no, it's good stuff. And then Uzair, definitely the FE at the bottom, very I can tell. And then Shane with the masculine. So I think Joyce and Ian are more balanced, it seems like, so everyone's a little bit more like extreme. Rob's obviously it's his first, so forgot his name at the start, so obviously that's why don't we swing to the other side, guys? The TI. So let's talk about your TI. I want to start with Shane first this time, because Shane is the only one with feminine TI here. So I'm kind of curious to hear what your feminine TI is, and it's second, so go for it, man.
All right. Well, I first became really aware of it in my journey on Joyce's panels, and I was on there as another type, and her and I both recognized my use of reasoning was a little bit different from the rest of the people in those videos. And, whether they're good or bad reasons, I strategize, I have reasons for what I think, reasons for doing things, and they're internal, they're introverted. I don't go by what is by the book or what is the established way of doing things. If one of my kids' toys break, I figure out a makeshift fix for it. And I'm just going by what I think will work. And so it's creative in that sense. However, it's feminine in the sense that I place the truth over my feelings about it. I'm sure you guys have heard this saying before, the truth doesn't care about our feelings, or the facts don't care about our feelings. If I believe something, whether it's about myself, for instance, my own type, or someone else's type, or something in debate within a scientific community or political community for that matter, if the truth smacks me upside of the head and presents me with something different than I previously thought, I'm movable there. I'm not going to stubbornly hold fast to my opinion because I don't like what the facts say, or I don't like the person bringing me the facts. I think ad hominem arguments are the ones that I see most prevalent in today's society. And for those of you not familiar with that, it's simply attacking the person making the argument rather than taking a close look at the logic of the argument itself. So this often happens in politics, and I won't mention any of the contemporary debates out loud right now, but oftentimes people pick a side based on their feelings rather than the factual events of the matter. And it's like, oh, my side thinks this way, I'll go with the group feeling on that. And, you know, if so-and-so thinks A, then I better think B, you know, and I don't like that. I just want the truth, whether it makes me feel good or not. And that's where TI works for me. I'm looking for the truth. I'm looking for what works best for me. And if that's what also works best for everyone else, that's great. But if it doesn't, that's fine. I don't care. And that would go with opinions on social matters, as well as personal tastes in clothing I wear. If I like something, I don't care if someone else thinks it looks clownish, I'll make it work. I can pull it off. And that's my TI in action.
Yeah, and so Shane mentioned my panels. And so for context, I used to have Shane on my ESFP panels. And I realized pretty early on that Shane was probably an ESTP. And how I dealt with it is very feminine FE, or just very Joyce. And so I was like, oh no, I'm gonna hurt Shane's feelings if I let him know he's an ESTP. And he's friends with all of the ESFPs. And I don't want to ruin that. And so what I did was I was just like, guys, we're just gonna do pre-recorded videos. And so like if Shane had at any point said something that sounded kind of TI-ish, I would just edit it out. And I'm like, you know, he can stay with his friends.
That hurt my feelings.
Because then he could be with his friends and he could like spend time with them and not feel not included. And so I kind of chose feminine FE on that stance. And I could still be TI because I could still vet the accuracy of the information. And so that's pretty funny.
The EP here got controlled by the IJ.
Yeah, wow. Just a classic story for the ages.
Right. All right. So Joyce, pass the hot potato to someone.
Yeah, hot potato to Uzair.
The king of the TI.
You guys hear me? There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Uzair, don't do us like you did Clubhouse, man. Give us the real deal, bro.
man, I don't really even know what TI is. I think part of TI is like if you're beta quadra, right? It's like, oh, thinking, that's a buzzkill. Like, why do you want to talk about it, right? That's why we're extroverted feelings, right? We don't really want to like be like sure, you can go into like the nerdy, like, yeah, well, technically, because but it's just like, I don't know, it's like, it's kind of whack, right? It's like, it's just weird to talk about. But yeah, I think introverted thinking, I don't know, whatever. You kind of, everyone has like some sense of how they're going to go about in the world. And you make decisions based off of that, right? I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I think that okay, I got it. So I think what TI users in general, I think this applies to all of us, right? I think that like within, people call this beta quadra, right? Like TI, FE, SE, whatever, and we're all kind of like made of the same stuff. It's just like, are you more extroverted? Are you more inclined to like control the tribe, right? Like the inner workings are still the same, and like the stuff that we respond to is gonna be similar. And I think that like why are we a little bit reluctant to kind of give advice, give like thinker advice or like practical advice to people? It's like, well, I don't know what your circumstances are. I don't know what you've tried already. I don't. And there's also because you have the FE of like, you get confused of like, if I give you advice, it's like, wait, are you giving me advice, or are you suggesting that you want me to do this, right? That's why it gets a little confusing. And so so if I'm like, oh man, you know what you should do? Like you should work at my my brother's place. And it's like, oh, do you want me to work at your brother's place because you think that would something that you would like, or is it because it's something that would work for me, right? There's like a little bit of that confusion. That's why ultimately what you decide on what makes sense to do is not a negotiation with the tribe. It's like what you're thinking off of what people want, and you're like, okay, within these limitations of what people want, I think that this makes sense given what my personal circumstances are, which I'm not sharing with everybody, right? Yeah, so I think that's just what TI is, or that's how I understand it. I'll pass it to who hasn't spoken on this one. Ian, I think.
So for me, TI is like a struggle between the FE and the TI. So FE is the savior, but TI is double activated. It's masculine. So savior, always thinking about what works for everyone else. What will everyone think? If I go to the store and I'm going to buy a shirt, you know, it's like, okay, this shirt is cool. People are going to like it. But then it's like, well, what do I want? Right. And it's that's pretty much how I kind of make a lot of decisions. A lot of times it's just trying to, it's that struggle between those two things. And based on feedback, you know, the FE, the TI may stick out a lot of times as well. It's not as a parent that I'm savior FE. But there's just this constant push and pull between, you know, what the tribe needs versus what works for me, what I want. I think when I'm meeting someone, they're going to get the FE. They're going to get, you know, the feel good and all of that. But as people get to know me, then the TI kind of comes out, and it kind of catches people by surprise sometimes, because, you know, if I gave them that sweet side, then it's like, okay, I'll hit them with something that hits a little bit harder, and then they're like shocked. But both of them are me, but it's you know, I choose to lead with the FE first, and the TI comes after that. Cole, I think you're up.
Yeah, I kind of relate a lot as well, because it's initially with me, it's like the tribe. What does the tribe want first? Then after it comes to a point where it's like, okay, based on what the tribe has identified, what they like, what everybody else likes, I now need to find out of the tribe's reasons or values or whatever it is specifically. I need to look, okay, what works for me? What makes sense for me? For example, if somebody says, I like to, when I go to the gym, I like to lift this type of weights. I say, okay, does it work for me? What are the reasons why? It's basically trying to, like, for example, do you know that same way it's like a needle in a haystack or something like that? Trying to find the reason that works for me. So it's all about saying, okay, there's so many reasons out there, or there's so many things I could be doing, but does it make sense to me? And does it work for me? And do I like it as well? I guess, I think all it is, but essentially for me, is just kind of trying to differentiate from the tribe. Okay. And just say what works for me, basically. That's in a nutshell. Rob?
Yes.
Or has he already spoken about this, or?
Oh, I can talk.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, in relation to the FE, so if the FE is like surveying the tribe and understanding what people like, the TI is kind of then going like, oh, there's like a gap here. People want something, need something over here, and like trying to then be like, okay, I'm going to take responsibility for figuring that out because somebody hasn't figured that out yet, or not good enough, or you know, whatever. So that's a lot of how I see like the FE and the TI sort of playing together in terms of like understanding what people are needing and what's not being fulfilled. So it's like trying to then carve out that space for oneself. It's and then the TI is also like, it feels like it almost like takes this perspective of like, oh, no one else has done this yet, and like I'm the only one that has like this information, so I have to like figure this out for myself. Where in comparison to TEs, like ping off of others, like assuming other people have like tried similar enough things that they can ping off of, where I'm just like, oh, well, this is like how I know how to make this work, and maybe it's like looks stupid to somebody that knows about some better way to do it. But just kind of like I think about these websites that I'm building, and like maybe they're not like the best like way to do it. That's standard practice, but it's like, oh, this is the way I know how to do it, so I'm just gonna like throw something together because I'm excited about it. That's a lot of what I see myself doing with TI. It's like, oh, I know how to make it work for myself in this way, and maybe that's like also a sleep blast problem of not wanting to update my ways of doing things sometimes. But yeah,
I also relate with that as well, in terms of that you say where you find gaps. Like that's one thing I'm constantly noticing within the tribe. I always finding gaps and seeing things. What in my way could work for And then after I kind of use the FE as well to see, okay, what is, trying to basically finding gaps and eliminating those gaps. And then, yeah.
Yeah, it's also like looking for where the stuff that I know how to do is needed.
And how
as
to
well.
fit in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
where
want
does
to
the
go back
tribe
to
need me?
Joyce. So earlier Joyce, she talked about controlling Shane, but she didn't really talk about her TI. Me and Joyce had this talk long time ago. Joyce said to me, even though she's savior TI, she doesn't feel as confident as like an ISTP would be, just because it's still third on her function stack as an INFJ. Can you talk about that, like the feeling of confidence and whatnot, Joyce? Even though you're savior TI.
Yeah, sometimes like I feel a little bit more FE heavy in a weird way, where if it's a fight between offending people or saying what's really on my mind and my truth, I will default to not saying the thing that I think the tribe will take poorly, because either my FE is feminine or it's just because of the function stack is a little weird. And so I can sometimes be even naive sometimes. So someone can tell me something and I can kind of accept it easily because I'm in FE mode. And when I'm in FE mode, it's hard to TI. And then it's not until later on I realize how faulty my logic is. I'm like, huh, I took that in while I was in FE mode and that was like totally not correct. But there are times where I can be very savior TI too. And those are the moments where I can be very scrutinizing of logic in my own way. So I see something and it triggers the no machine in me. And I'm like, it doesn't sound right. And so I can have a mind of my own, an opinion of my own that can be a little opposing to the tribe. But I'll always try to not express that if I think that people are going to take it poorly. So like I'm very cued in on what not to say and what could possibly, like there's the golden rule, which is you ask yourself 3 things before saying something. And is it kind, is it necessary, and is it true? So if it doesn't meet all, like at least 2 of those, then I don't say it. So my TI is like safety scissors. It's still cutting, but it makes sure that it doesn't stab kids. So
Yeah, and most adults are still kids, so yeah, you definitely need the safety scissors. All right, great. So let's talk about the NI now. Since we're talking about NI, we got to get the IJs in it first, since you guys are the savior control here. So why don't we start with Cole for this one? Cole, can you talk about your lean NI here?
I guess with me, I see my NI in a sense just trying to come to conclusions, just trying to find, okay, what's the best path either for me or for the tribe if it's paired up with the FE. And essentially what I'm trying to do is trying to come to just a final path and just trying to do that. But also because if it's also feminine as well, so it's feminine, and so I could actually find multiple ways to kind of come to that conclusion or trying to arrive at that final destination, I guess. Yeah.
All right, you want to pass it on to someone?
Joyce?
Yeah, I have very traditional NI. I think it's because I have masculine NI. And I kind of see how things have a ripple effect or a domino effect. It's like taking this one main concept or this one idea and playing it across time. So it's like seeing the trajectory of ideas. And so oftentimes like I'll come out of situations and I'll have my own type of takeaway in my NITI land. And I'll create a framework around an idea. And I want to really understand what is the heart of reality. Like I want to get to the root of something when I understand it. And so it's this obsession with understanding the main essence behind something. So you're reducing something down. It's almost like when you're cooking and you're trying to reduce like this liquid you have into the finest, most concentrated part of that liquid. So I'm trying to find the common denominator or the common idea that threads everything together. And so it's this thematic desire to put things into a theme. And I can sometimes, it can be so strong sometimes, I can miss the obvious SE reality. So I'll be going like, there's this idea and I'll be fitting everything into this. It's kind of like I'll have an NI concept that is like everything is either seed or weed, like it's either harmful or helpful. And then I'll even fit things that don't fully fit into it. I'm like, you know, my concept is red. You know, that looks kind of like a reddish purple. It's still red. All right, I'll put it in. So it's seeing how everything fits into the same idea. At the end of the day, it boils down to this one thing. And it's that for me. It's narrowing down to the clearest concepts that can explain everything. Yeah, and so Rob?
Mine's like that, but it really muddy because like I'm just constantly gathering a bunch of SE and I just like can never actually get it clean. That is kind of how I think about it. Yeah, it is a lot of it's a lot of me forming buckets for things and then trying to understand and refine those buckets like constantly. So what does that mean? It's also like having sort of a vision for something I want to create, and then I can be like really uncomfortable with the space between that sort of envision of that thing happening and it actually happening is kind of how I see it as a demon. So like, oh, I have a feature that I want to build into my website. I'll like, if I write it down, I'll like be like inching to do it. I don't want to like put it down and like forget about it. So I don't know. I want it to happen as soon as possible. So a lot of the time I'm just like chasing after that as soon as I think of it. But like a lot of my growth I'm trying to work on is allowing myself to sort of create paths to those things and expand what those paths look like so that it's a longer extended trajectory and I can be more confident that I will see those things through. So that's a lot of what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about my NI. I don't feel like I'm talking about my NI exactly, but maybe that gives you an idea of what that process means to me. So.
All right, Rob, you forgot to throw the potato at someone. You forgot to blast.
All right, let's go, Shane.
All right, thanks, Rob. My realization of NI has come from changing my internal definition or framework of it from a noun to a verb. Before, I overestimated my NI by just associating it with transcendental things or my interest in philosophy or something like that. But it's more of an act. And for me, it's a wonderful thing to be working on it as a demon, because now I'm bringing together my vision for my best life together with my inclination to act. And I think all of us have gaps there. And for the traditional NI lead, they have all the plans and ideas in the world and they never get around to doing anything. Whereas people like me with SE on top, we're so busy running the rat race that we can't take a step back and look and see that we're not going anywhere. So now understanding NI in terms of time and vision and actualization has helped me close that gap between my actual self and my ideal self. And the way that looks like in the regular world is simply, you know, I pay my taxes now. I just got back from the dentist before this panel, for instance. These are things I just would put off forever. You know, it's like, I'm not comfortable doing that, you know, forget about that stuff. Like, I don't have time for that. Now I'm seeing the consequences of my actions in the moment and thinking twice before impulsively doing what I feel like, you know, in any given moment. And that's how NI is developing for me. And it's my favorite function to really use, you know, and I think of it as like my secret power. It's buried deep down in there, but it's the spark that keeps the flame going. And then my SE is just bam, you know, I'm getting it going with my SE. But it's that NI that's the secret me. That's the me that nobody sees. It's like that, you know, like getting it going. That's all I got to say about that.
All right, Shane,
I
you
will
want to pass it?
go with Ian next.
So it's interesting hearing you talk, Shane, because I feel you on 100% of that. Like I kind of look at my NI. So like I have an NI, right? So if I take in something, if I learn something, like I have a perception of it, a narrow perception, right? Me being masculine NI, that's what I'm going to hold on to. That's what I'm going to remember. But day to day, it's the SE that kind of overtakes everything, overshadows everything. It's the thing of the day. But I do have a theme or themes that kind of run through my whole life, and I'll constantly come back to them. A lot of times it's not voluntary. It's like, you know, situations happen where I'm forced to come back to it, or it's almost like it's just like the right time to kind of come back to it. But day to day, it's the SE that kind of reigns, it rules. For me, the NI is like I kind of, it's personal in a lot of ways as well, right? I have my understanding of things. I have my narrowed down view of things, and it's not something I really want to share, because I feel like it's something that people they're not going to understand it, or it's not ready for the world in a lot of ways. So I tend not to, I'm a lot really hesitant to share those things, but a lot of times it will come out in like the blast. If once I kind of get pulled into that mode, then I'm more apt to share those things. It kind of comes out, but it's really just patterns and things that I see that I hold on to, that I'm not necessarily sharing because I feel more responsible to share what everybody can see and appreciate, right? I value bringing people along and things being clear to everyone. If I share this abstract thing that only I'm thinking about, I'm going to lose a lot of people in the process. So it's for those those closest to me will get that, and we can kind of hash it out, but that's not for everybody to see.
All right.
I think I'm the last one.
Uzair hasn't, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, Uzi.
All good. Yeah, interesting to hear things. Is my mic working? I'm not lighting up.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit low. You can shout because it's fine.
Okay, I'll shout. All right. Oh, okay. So I think that it's, what do I would say, NI? It's just, I see NI as like when you don't have enough SE, right? Any kind of like narrowed down function. It's like if you're NE, like when do you have to use SI? You're not smart enough, right? You're not smart enough, and so now you have to narrow it down to like specific processes because you are not able to simulate things out again. And so when to use NI is like when you run out of like SE, like you're not like I started playing soccer at kind of like a late age, right? And you see these kids running around and like I can't chase them down. They're too fast. They've got unlimited stamina. And so like I don't have enough SE, you know? So like what do I have to do? I have to like look at them. Okay, how do they play? Oh, he always goes left. Oh, he goes left again. Okay, now I know how to defend it, because you're just like downloading what is this person's pattern, because there's not enough variety out there in the world that a given player is in a given game gonna do a bunch of different stuff, right? I'm just gonna observe you, see what you do, and then with my limited resources, right, I'm gonna try to like get the most out of that, right? Because OI or NI, that's old person game, right? There's like I'm not gonna be able to chase you down. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast enough. Don't have enough stamina, and so I'm just gonna try to like see what you do and just very narrow down, specifically target what you do, and by predicting it, right? That's what kind of NI is. I think that what I would prefer, of course, is have enough SE that I don't have to use NI, but sadly, it's not the case.
Yeah, that is so true. So I think one of the phrases that demonstrates NI is like sometimes I'll notice NI users, they go back to the same core guiding philosophy. Like, for instance, the phrase closed mouths don't get fed. So this is kind of a guiding philosophy because it's hard to trust the SE. if your NI is a savior function, it can be hard to trust your SE to gather in the moment enough information. So you need an NI guiding philosophy to help you to make up for your lack of SE, almost like what Uzair so wonderfully said. And so phrases like closed mouths don't get fed, what it kind of teaches you is like the guiding principle that you miss 100% of the shots that you really don't take in your life. Therefore, now you have a way of sorting life, of organizing life, so that now you know how to tackle it in a specific directed way, intentional way.
All right, cool guys. Yeah, I learned a lot of good stuff from you guys. Like I like what Shane said earlier about using his SE to like run the rat race, but then he ends up going nowhere because he didn't use the NI. I think that was that's definitely like, it sounds like an ESTP story. It's definitely really good. I don't know if Ian can relate to that one, but that's definitely a good one. The other thing Joyce said was if something is like red purple, then she'll still put it in red because it's like close enough. And I'm like, oh my god, that's what my girlfriend does. Kind of, I'm like, I don't know if that's right or not, but okay, whatever. I guess it's a shortcut. Limited SE, kind of like what Uzair also said earlier. I like how Uzair uses it though, because like he does it in a double observer way. So it's like he does respect the SE, but because he knows he doesn't have enough, he'll like use your patterns against you, because everyone has a pattern, right? So you're also a sleep savior, right, Uzair? So you're conserving your energy. So that's like a good way for you to conserve energy. It's like, yeah, if I know what you're doing, then I'll just do that then.
Yeah, I don't have enough energy. That's fine.
All right, cool guys. Since we're on the topic of SE, let's go jump into the last function here, which is extroverted sensing. Who has not gone first yet? Okay, who has not gone first yet? Is it Uzair? Uzair hasn't gone first yet, right?
I think maybe I haven't gone first.
All right,
Yeah.
all right, Uzair, go for it, man. Extrovert sensing. You're kind of like an interesting type because you're an ISTP, but you don't have savior SE, but it's masculine. So, what's going on there, man?
Yeah, I think it's like I was just talking about. I think it's hard to talk about one coin without the other, right? It's just like extroverted sensing. I think it's like the most basest of all coins, right? It's just like what is out there, especially masculine extroverted sensing is like what is physically out there. And so even like when we are, so you start with the assumption of like, okay, this is the stuff that we've all seen, right? Like, and so if I'm going to refer to things, like if I'm going to give examples, I'm going to give like kind of concrete examples, like, oh, remember when you said that, or remember when this happened, and then maybe I'll give what's debatable right here is what the interpretation is. Like physically, we can see that this person said this, or that happened when I don't know, like when you I don't know, hit a car against a curb, like you got a flat, right? That's like, those are two sensory events. And then the interpretation that comes off of that is debatable, right? And I think that just having masculine sensory somewhere is that you just believe in the stuff that's happened, and that's the language that you think that everyone kind of respects, right? Like, this is the stuff that happened. That's just how I see it. I'll pass it to, I'm interested to hear what Cole has to say.
Yeah, extroverted sensing, I think it's just seeing, like, as Jose says, that what do we all see? We can all see what's happening on the surface, but again, it's that interpretation of what you actually see is based on the other function or whatever it is. But I guess the way I kind of see it, because also my extroverted sensing is masculine as well, it's like identifying what I can see in reality and then kind of presenting it and just sharing it. If I do end up sharing those, whatever the data I've obtained, is like I'm going to be kind of pushing on the information, the facts, and just kind of explaining in quite detail what I've seen and just kind of doing that stuff there. And also, it's just kind of just exploring and kind of taking in a lot and just literally just gathering, literally just taking in and just doing that and there. So yeah, Shane, would you like to explain?
Sure. For me, SE it's everything. It's action, it's force, it's my go-to function. When all else fails, I'm coming at you with all the SE I've got. I might not be able to outplan you, I might not be able to out-popularize you, or maybe not even outthink you, but I can outwork you. I'm like the Energizer. I'll keep going. I'll keep going. I'll keep going. I'll keep consuming. I'll keep running. I'll keep acting, and I'll, sometimes it is a rat race and I'm just spinning my wheels, but more often than not, the will to continue when other people stop is what ends up getting me what I want in the end. And that's, I think our most prominent functions, maybe our second function and not our first, because our first we kind of overuse, we kind of take it for granted. We don't even think about it. It just emotes, it comes out with, regardless of our awareness of it, it's there. It's like the water a fish swims in or the air we breathe. And for me, it's just, I don't know any other way. And I think only recently I've noticed the difference between people similar to me and everyone else. And that is that, I just little things like
Oh, you're muted, Shane.
different. I can handle an interruption like the phone call I just had coming in. Things like that. It just happens and I act. Sometimes I act before I think, and that's not good, but I'm learning to think before I act sometimes. But yeah, it's just an exciting function to have. It's something that I can always rely on if worse comes to worse. And I feel good that I'm good in it. I think for an SE lead, the thought of having not being able to use it would be not being able to consume, not being able to act in the physical world. That would be just torture to me. And so it's a top priority for me to be physically healthy and active, and because I want to be the best at what I do, and that's SE. I'll go with Joyce next.
Yeah, the thing is, I can be so much in my introverted intuition that I miss the obvious. Like I miss the SE, what's happening actually, and gathering in the sensory. And so, for instance, it took me like a decade to realize what brand my hair straightener was. And I only realized that because someone else told me what it was. And I was like, what brand my hair straightener is? I don't even know that. And I was like, that's high sensory, man. That's high sensory. And so I'll have people kind of being more detail oriented than me all the time. Like if I walk on a street I've been on for like, I don't know, 20 years, I'll realize one day, like I'm sometimes really in my head, just thinking about life and existence and humanity and the direction of it, that I'll miss like the plant right in front of me. And I'm like, has that tree always been there one day? And then it's like, yes, Joyce, it's been there. That's a really old tree. So therefore, ergo, it's been there the whole time and your eyes have not been eyes. So it's like missing what's in front of your face because you're deep in thought, especially as a sleep first person. The SE is hard, man.
I was about to say something inappropriate, but maybe I'll keep it to myself. I'll just say it. I was going to say, well, maybe you can't see it because, we're both Asian, we can't see very well.
Oh, geez.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry. I had to say it. But anyways, let's go with the next person.
Kendrick, you're triggering everybody's FE in here, bro.
I know, but I had to say it.
I'll go. Yeah, it's interesting listening to Shane because it's like in that case it's opposite to me. SE is, I just call it like stuff. Like because it is the savior, I don't see it. Right. And when I was typed, it was the thing that I thought I was SE last. Right, because it's so like invisible to me, and in any given moment, you'll find me kind of like thinking about something I've gathered already, and not actually whatever it is in front of me. But when it comes time to explain something, I feel like I have to give you SE, right? Because it's feminine, I can't, it's not like I'm memorizing half of the stuff. It's I'm just gathering whatever I can, whatever I can kind of conjure up. But, you know, day to day, you know, obviously I'm out here and I'm immersed in it. I'm picking it up, but it's not something that I'm conscious of at all. So it only becomes apparent to me when it's time to exchange information with someone, and I can kind of catch myself kind of like engaging in it. But outside of that, it's invisible.
And then you can see Kendrick with his FI self-amusement, still laughing in the corner.
I can see him over here, like he's like, I don't know if is he laughing or is he like contemplating, like, should I have said that? Like, do I need to edit that out?
I'm not editing anything.
Edit. What's that?
All right, who wants to go next?
I'll give it to Rob. I'll give it to my tight fraternal brother.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing Joyce and even sometimes Dave talk about like how all this SE stuff they don't notice, because similar to Ian, like I feel like I'm kind of like in my head not really paying attention. I get crap from my wife about that all the time, just like, because like until it matters, it doesn't matter a lot of the time. Like a lot of what there's something with the masculine functions and objective personality, and I still don't really get it. It's kind of like the engine of the type almost. Like that's what sticks and what's real to you in some way. But the saviors is like a different axis altogether. So like when it comes down to it, I need to prove this to you. It's kind of what Ian was saying there with like, I need to pull the information, and that's kind of where like I'm memorizing these patterns of how to get that information when I do need it. So I have a lot of documents and things, so, and I'll like search up that information. So I like leave a lot of notes and stuff for myself to go look up, and it's somewhere, I got it, but it's not organized, right? It's stuff all over the place. So like you can look at my desk, it's covered with notes. I just scribble notes all day long. I don't do a good job of keeping them arranged. That's something I'm kind of working towards, but when it matters, I take more care of it, like at work and things like that. What people like are gonna come and ask me for this information. You worked on this. Can you provide this information? It's like, oh yeah, I saved that because I figured that somebody might. I use my AI to predict that somebody's going to come ask me for that. Because I picked up on that pattern after a while at work, that this is something that consistently happens. I need to provide this information. I need to be responsible in some way. So I thought Uzair's example earlier with the kids in the soccer was interesting, in terms of like him like trying to NT the soccer event, which wouldn't be my way of going about that. Like with my SEFE, I would just like try and have a good time. Like, oh, maybe I'm not gonna win. I don't know. Like, I don't need to like solve this necessarily. So that's interesting. Like I'll do my best, but like if I can't win, like maybe that's not like what's meant to be, and maybe it's not the point. I don't know, but yeah, just like trying to adapt to the situation. Yeah, not necessarily just having like, oh, I need like a good plan here, and focus on the plan. It's like, what can I do? What's the next thing I can try? Is a lot of like what the SE is looking for. Like, what's the next thing I can grab to, like, oh, maybe I can grab their ankle to. It's more like a leg sweep.
It is a lot of improvisation.
Yeah, it's
like just, you know, whatever it is in the moment that you need to do to keep moving forward. You'll go for that.
Yeah, it's the feminine sensor is really interesting, because it's just like, it seems like it's like a loophole, or like a, you know, like a patched together solution, because it's just like, basically what you're trying to say is that person is a gatherer, right? They're OE, but on some level they respect like the intuition more, right? That's why like kind of across the board, anytime like a lead or like feminine sensory will always type themselves as like any, or like some kind of intuition, right? It's just like whereas like, yeah, for me subjectively, and like my reputation among my friends is that like, oh no, I'm like very like whatever, the masculine sensory of like the timeline, like I'll like remember things, I'll remember facts, and like kind of like hold people to the facts, right? And even just like, yeah. So the feminine sense
That's
is
like an
really
info dom thing too, right?
yeah, that's true. So yeah.
All right, thanks guys for the extrovert sensing stuff. Everyone has a prepared question for each other. You guys got them ready? Who wants to go first? Like who didn't go first yet? I think everyone kind of went first already.
I believe that was a suggestion.
What's that?
I believe you suggested we bring
Yeah,
questions.
I did. Okay, now yeah, if you don't have one, that's fine. But if you do, I would be good if you have one. But if you don't, that's fine. Let's go with why don't we go with Cole first?
Oh, well, as in people ask me questions first.
Yeah, I remember I asked you guys to prepare a question for, like, if you have a burning question.
Oh,
About
okay. So if they have questions for me first, am I going to be the one answering?
No, you have a question for everyone else.
You have to ask the question.
Oh,
You have to ask the question.
Play, bro. Play.
Don't do homework,
Okay.
bro.
He double acted in play. This guy double acted in play.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The first type of question I had, and this is kind of mainly for everyone first, is that communication styles. Like when communicating with people, do you kind of have like a? Okay, let me kind of ask Joyce first with the NITI. When communicating with people, like, do you kind of like what's your thought process when somebody asks you a question? Like I'm asking you a question now. What kind of processes goes through your mind first, and then how do you kind of go about answering the question? So I'm going to ask you, do you understand my question?
Yeah, I do.
Like
what,
like in your head, can you describe to me how do you like the first of all receiving the information that the question, the words rather, how do you kind of decode it and just answer the question? Like what do you think? Like what do you think? Does that make sense?
Yeah, when someone asks me something, what I'm thinking to myself is, how do I answer in a way where I can convey something of value, of substance, and of meaning? So I don't like to speak to just speak because I'm low energy like Uzair. So I want when I talk to have a purpose and have a point. Otherwise, why? I also like, it's either like I want to talk to make someone else feel good or to convey something meaningful. Otherwise, I'd rather not speak. So I'm very intentional of when I open up my yapper. Otherwise, it's more hot potato format. If I'm forced to speak, then I'll just say something like right now.
She's just talking right now. She doesn't even...
This is how you terrify someone with sleep consume first, and also an observer who's like, oh my gosh, I never know when I'm going to be called on.
Okay.
And
okay. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, that's basically it though. Great question, Cole.
Okay. Ian, can you answer the question next? I'm just kind of trying
to. Could you ask the question again, bro?
Okay, so for example, I'm asking you this question right now, right? Mm-hmm. The question the information I'm trying to receive from you is what's going through your head right now as I'm speaking. What's going on?
As you're speaking,
okay, so for number one, like what are you thinking about whilst I'm speaking? Number two, how do you kind of formulate a response based on, how are you going to formulate,
So it's the desire is to understand you.
Okay.
Right. But then I'm also thinking about, okay, I have to give an answer that's going to be tribe satisfying, but also it has to validate me as well. Right.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So it's like, okay, I don't want to sound dumb. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like I have to give something that's going to make, satisfy the people, but then also make me look great as well. Right. So that's the balance right there. Right. So it's I may have a direct answer, but the direct answer may not check those two boxes. So it's just this game of, giving something that's going to leave everybody feeling fulfilled. Okay.
So if it was a direct answer, you would kind of eliminate not using, or you'd rather not go for that direct answer if it's what I wanted.
The direct answer can be like three words, right? It could be very, very terse, very straightforward, and it'll be effective, but I'm leaving people behind, and that's never my intent.
Interesting. Okay, so you'd rather, in a sense, you take the longer format.
Right, because it's you got to it's bringing people along. It's more tribe pleasing. It'll hopefully, because I'm playing, it's like it'll lead to more discussion. It's gonna open doors. It's gonna do a bunch of things than me just kind of like just pleasing myself, right? I can't just please myself. I gotta do for others.
Interesting, because the way I see it sometimes is that, okay, because I've noticed, especially a lot of times when people ask me questions, it's like my kind of response or my answers are kind of short format, to the point, concise. But then afterwards, it's like once we kind of get into that play mode or whatever it is we're discussing, then I can kind of not go back onto what I said and kind of refine it, but that as well, but also kind of get more out of the conversation and just kind of see, basically we can all come on the same wavelength and actually see what I'm actually trying to say.
If a camera wasn't on us, it would be a whole different situation. Right? I probably would be. Okay. I'm different now because I know people. This will be preserved and recorded, and people will come back to it. But if it was just us just talking and just like, you know, it would be a whole different situation. So it's always that factor of knowing, you know, who's watching, what's necessary in this situation. That kind of
so does that kind of play into also that kind of that those are factors as well. Okay. Thank you so much, Ian. Uzair? Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, Ian asked about like Kendrick's audience before we did this, because he's got that running in the back of his mind.
I need to know who the audience is, man.
Okay, interesting. Oh yeah, so do you want to go ahead first? And
it's interesting you're asking this, because I noticed your answers were like a little bit shorter than some of ours. And I saw one of your interviews recently, and you were like talking a lot. So
yeah.
I was kind of surprised.
Yeah. That's
you didn't run with the potato more.
yeah. That's what. Okay. Yeah.
Every time the potato experiment is brought up, Kendrick's just in tears. Like the higher the chaos goes, the more he's just jubilant with laughter.
Because it's also interesting, because I also see it as the fact that when I usually communicate with somebody, especially if it's just like, if I'm one-on-one, I kind of want that person to be talking more. Like, for example, this hot potato version, this business, it's like, I got the hot potatoes, like, okay, let me pass it on to somebody else. That's kind of what kind of goes through me. So when but it depends, like, once you get to the play stage, I can go back and forth, like, forever, you know? But it's like, initially, it's like, okay, I want to get to know more about you first. And then kind of, So, Rob, did you answer the question?
So your question was, what goes through my mind when someone asks me a question? Just like this, like
meta question.
Yeah, which is like cracking me up earlier. So yeah, I mean, it's about like, okay, well, why are you asking me this? Like, what are you trying to get out of me, right? Okay. Yeah, I don't. So that's what's going through when they ask me, and then when I'm trying to respond, I'm just trying to figure out what the best response is. I don't know. And like I talked about the FE earlier, like trying to have that land well, has many factors in terms of like considering what they know about already. Like, do you know what OP is? Like, can I use that as like a framing point, or do I need to kind of like pull something in that we both know about otherwise? So that's
okay. Uzair?
For some reason, hold on. For some reason, when Cole asked that question to Rob, the first thing that I was thinking in my head, again, F myself amusing here, was like, I pictured Rob going, remember your name. Just kidding. Sorry, man.
That's another thing I was going to say. I was going to say, oh yeah, let me ask this question. This is an observer question. This isn't about me. This is easy stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, go for it. Continue, guys. Yeah, I definitely Cole's definitely the guy to do the potato stuff, because he's like blast play, so he's definitely kicking ass now. So keep going, man.
Yeah, I just want to hear from Uzair.
Yeah. I think it's similar to what Ian said, is that in this circumstance it's gonna be different, right? Because it's like, sure, we're having a conversation, but it's really for the consumption of the audience, right? And so like everything is like it needs to be entertaining, it needs to be relatable to them. Like it doesn't make sense for us to reference stuff that, let's say, happened off the stage, right? Because it's going to lose them, for example. So yeah, that's number one. If we're having a one-on-one conversation, then it's going to be a little bit different, right? Then that's like a matter of like, one is like, if you're having a large conversation, that's like a performance, right? And I think that's kind of like understood for everybody, that like it's for public consumption. It's meant to be entertaining. It's meant to be like kind of like not low common denominator in a bad way, but just like relatable and understandable for everyone. If it's a one-on-one conversation, that's like a rapport building. I remember I was giving my dad advice one time, because he's just like giving like really like poor persuasion things, right? And I was like, and now retrospectively, that's actually just like the 4 functions. And I was like, you need to communicate every time you talk to someone that we're on the same team, right? If you're giving someone advice, like you have to say that you're on the same team, right? And that's maybe that's the FE of it, because it's like, why am I listening to advice to someone who maybe doesn't have my best interest or whatever, right? And then the other part of rapport is that you need to kind of share that you see the world in a similar way, right? That the way that the world that you're living in is also the world that I'm living in, right? You see, like, so you have like certain reference points of like, see, this is how the world works, right? You agree with that? Yeah, I agree with that. I see that too. And that's kind of like the SE. And then the third thing is that they understand where you're trying to go. Like if you're giving advice to someone, it's just like, what are you giving them advice towards, right? So like, I think like those, and then I guess the last thing is that you have to be competent, right? In that topic that you're recommending. So I think in a one-on-one conversation, that's what plays in. You're building kind of like deep rapport. I think it was a long-winded answer.
All right, Shane, do you want to chime in?
Sure.
Do you know the question?
So when someone asks me a question, to use an analogy, it's sort of like throwing paint against a blank canvas. And then I take a look at what color is there, and that allows me to focus in, because most questions are general and I'm looking for something specific that I can answer in a more detailed way. So the first thing is a sort of filtering out non-essential parts of the question. And then it's sort of like a funnel that I go into in more depth and detail. And my answers usually concerned with contributing truth to the subject. And in terms of personal conversations, it usually comes out as giving advice, sometimes unsolicited advice. And back to our initial discussion of FE, that's where, you know, sometimes people just need someone to listen to them. And I'm sitting here trying to fix their problem. And that doesn't always go over as well as I think. I'm like, you had a problem, I just gave you the solution. Doesn't that make you FE feel better? And rarely, more often than not, they just want someone to just cry with them or think with them, or, oh, I understand. And they don't want a solution to their problem. That's frustrating to me at times. So in general, just questions of knowledge, back to that analogy, I look at the color of the question, I filter it through my TI, I guess you could call it, and then I try to combine my understanding of the topic with the new information coming in to make a unique and new contribution to the body of knowledge. That's how I would answer that.
Cool.
All right, guys. So you guys don't have to ask the question to everyone. You can have just one prepared question for like one specific person. I know, I mean, what Cole did is fine because he's high play, so it's cool. All right. So
You're changing the rules.
no, that was never the rule to begin with. Whatever. I'm an EP. There's no rules, but anyways. So, anyways, who wants to go next? Who has like a burning question about like other types? You know, Shane looks like he's excited. So Shane, you wanna ask?
Yeah, sure. Something unique about the objective personality system is the use of the animals: consume, play, blast, and sleep. And the way they've worked for me, you know, there's 4 of them, just like our primary functions, and I liken them to a similar way. Like my blast reminds me of my FE. Sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm embarrassing myself with it. And my sleep is similar to the NI. I need to work on that better and give myself time to process things and you know, so on and so forth. So my question to everyone else is, how has their understanding of the animals contributed to their personal growth? You know, for me, it's been in conjunction with my functions. You know, the lead SE and the inferior NI kind of goes with over consuming and not enough sleep. You know, let's stick to the body of knowledge of typology, for example. I could show you my closet, just rows of books, and I've read them probably too quickly, but at some point I need to start narrowing down and coming up with some definitive conclusions and finish something, instead of just, well, I'll figure it out after I buy this next row of books. And then once I read those, well, let's go with the next one. And then once I read those, now I'm back to looking at the first ones I bought. And it's never ending. It's that rat race that I was discussing. So my understanding of the objective personality system with consume first and sleep last is just as helpful as the MBTI understanding of having SE first and NI last. They work together, and they both have helped me develop into a better person. And of course, it's a work in progress. But my question, with all apologies to Kendrick, I want to know how each of you understand that. And some of you may have a longer answer than others, but I just wonder if you have a similar experience with the animals as I have.
Yeah, I'll go quickly first. I think with the animals itself, it's just seeing which ones I kind of do more of, and just being able to so identifying which ones I kind of do more of, as I just said, and seeing where I'm lacking. For example, with the sleep last, I'm not doing enough sleep processing, so I can see, okay, this is what's actually been tripping me up for the past whatever it is, and then that's what I need to kind of work more on. And yeah, so basically, long answer short, seeing what I'm doing more of, and just basically trying to balance the scale.
Cool.
So for me, I think that was the one thing that really just showed the value of OP, because when Dave told me on my audio that I was last, like just to make that call and to see that, it just opened it kind of sent me into like this like new phase in life, and just trying to figure out what's going on with me, like really just seeing that, not being able to narrow down, wanting to keep things open, not want to be preachy, not wanting to really just come down on anybody and not make a choice, and just being able to see how that's causing me trouble was like a huge eye opener and revelation. So it gave typology, the study, utility that no other system gave me. So
cool.
I'll go next. I think the last animal, like Ian was saying, that I think that's a big unlock, and like Shane was saying as well, is because I kind of wish. So I got typed when I was like whatever, like 33, 34, and I'd already, like at that point, I think you have a sense of like what you're lacking, and feedback people give you and stuff. And so it already kind of like developed some of like coping mechanisms, and being, you have a sense of, I had a sense of I was play last. I think the part that I didn't have a sense of, one, it took me like really long to start adjusting for that. Had I known that earlier, maybe I would have, like if you know what you tend to kind of like overemphasize or de-emphasize, then you can kind of like adjust yourself to do the right thing, right thing, right? But I think the other thing that was like eye-opening that I didn't even realize until now is that on the spectrum of people, right? Like ironically, like my blind spot was like where do I lie on the spectrum of people? It was like I didn't realize I was like the most like whatever, like play last, or the most like anti-chaos or whatever, right? So I think that was eye-opening, and I think that helped me understand where other people are at and like what they were trying to optimize for. Like if I looked at people who were like more impulsive, I think it kind of let me be more kind of empathetic to like why they were like that, and why they were like doing things that were that I didn't like baseline understand. So I think that was, for me, that's what it was.
It's funny you say that, because you kind of said everybody kind of knows their I'm like, nah, bro. Like I thought I was a master blaster, man. I thought I was great until they called that out of me, man. My blast is trash.
For me, the animals led to a lot more self-acceptance because I have low play, and something I'm very insecure about is how I'm not like very charming, because people who have play high up, they're good at like that back and forth with the tribe and themselves, and it comes off as very charismatic and fun to be around, and it's like the person that you want to hang out around. And so I've always had insecurity around being a little bit of a mope, or being a bit like a little bit low energy, or seeming tired all the time, or talking tired. And so, the OP code gave me acceptance that, I need midday naps, and that's okay. I like sleep, like function wise and actual sleep too. So it's helped me accept that.
Andrew Huberman also takes naps during the day, so he's sleep last. He's trying to manage that, I guess.
Yeah, something Dave and Shan mentioned before was like sleep consumed people tend to be night owls, and I'm a night owl. Like when the whole world falls asleep, that's when I'm the most energized, and so that gave me self-acceptance for that side of myself.
Well, I'm play blast. I'm a night owl too, so I don't know. Like,
gosh, that's really weird. I'm consume play, and I'm up at 5 in the morning every morning, and I'm out early. So that's interesting. I wonder if there is a correlation to that.
They do say that sleep last sometimes will crash. That's why they think they're asleep, because they use all the energy by the end of the day.
What time do you go to sleep, Shane?
I'm embarrassed to say, but it's probably 10 at night. I'm up at 5, asleep at 10.
Okay.
As long as it's dark, it's not embarrassing.
Yeah, man. You getting like prescribed sleep, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's been a work in progress. When I was out, partying my life away, I'd pull all-nighters all the time. But for the last 3 years, I've been pretty straight, and I have a routine, man. Get up every morning, whether I'm feeling it or not. 5 a.m. I'm up and at it, working out. Then I get ready for work. I go to work, come home, play with my kid, go to sleep, do it all over again the next day. You put a bunch of good days together, you got a good week. A few good weeks, you got a good month. A few good months together, you got a good year, and you stack a bunch of those up, and you end up with a good life. So that's where I'm at.
damn, I like that NF blast.
That's
good.
Awesome, man.
It's also building from the sensory up, right? It's like the blocks that lead up to the big thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that was perfectly said. That was good.
Yeah.
That was so good. All right. First comment. I think we forgot Rob, but
yeah.
So go for it, Rob, and we'll. Yeah.
I'm ready here. So for me, I think a lot of it is just like that realization of like not sharing what I'm kind of consuming. So it's like blast last is just like partially just an abundance of consume. Every time I go to share something, I'm like, wait, there's something else I can look into here. And it's like I try and just keep building it up until it's like fully ready to share. And then it's like so big that it's like hard to share. So just like understanding that cycle needs to be shortened in some way, which, work in progress, but trying to make projects for myself that I can sort of focus my consume into. So you might see consumers out there just like doing like YouTube videos and stuff that are just like, oh, this is like the thing that like doing the commentary videos. They're like, oh, this is the thing that I was looking at for the past couple of weeks. Here's like a 20-minute video about it. So like they're doing stuff like that. That's kind of like, okay, I need to like in some way turn what my consuming is into some kind of product I can share with the tribe. That's kind of like, oh, I need to do this full cycle to feel more fulfilled. I do find it fulfilling to like create things with what I'm doing and share that with other people in some way that they can actually understand. That's not some giant magnum opus. So.
All right. A few comments. So Joyce, you were saying that you are low play, but I think you're definitely putting the reps in with those giant interviews that you're doing, the 10, like nine ESTPs or whatever, like interviews. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, I can't even do that. And then like the other stuff that you used to tell me is like, oh, I'm so tired, I slept too long. And I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had your problem because I have trouble sleeping, you know? You're like, I slept like, what's that, 10 hours or 11 hours? And then you woke up, you're exhausted. And I'm like, oh man, can you give me someone like that 3 hours that you overslept or something? But yeah, no.
We know now though that she's maintaining control and editing when she needs to.
Yeah. But yeah, no, good stuff, guys. Does anyone have any other questions for someone else? I know we got Shane and Cole already jumped in, but like Joyce,
I
Rob,
have a question for Cole actually. I think one of the hardest things about OP is that sure, like you'll get a great unlock once you understand like, oh, the last animal, that's what I'm not doing. But like sometimes it's not really clear like what it is, right? It's just like, for example, like for sleep last or for play last, it's just like, well, wait, what the hell is play or what the hell is sleep, right? I'm sure that since you're OI, right? Cole, you must feel like, oh, I'm planning things, or I'm kind of like reflecting on things a lot. So like, what is your understanding? Like, how have you come to understand like what is it that you're not doing?
I guess it's not taking enough time for myself in the sense of, for example, I have so many projects, so many things that it's like when I do plan and when I do have these things and visions for which I think is for myself, it's really for the tribe. And it's like sometimes it gets to a point where it's like I'm expending so much energy for the tribe. And at the end of the day or at the end of the week, I look at myself or look at the things I've done. I've helped so many people. I've helped 99 people, but I haven't really helped myself in terms of what I really want to do. Because sometimes it can get to a point where throughout the day, like I'm doing work, I'm working. 9 p.m. comes, I'm for like, what's the purpose of life? Or why am I doing this? I don't understand the reasons to why this is happening or why I'm doing these things. So I guess it's kind of seeing that, just seeing what and that basically what and that I need to take care of myself, and seeing that okay, there's this side of myself where it's like I'm not understanding the reasons why I kind of do things, and just kind of come to that core understanding of okay, this is the reason why I'm doing it because of this, and actually just making it part of my identity and just understanding who I am at a greater at a greater level, and understanding that relationship between myself and the tribe and why I do things, and actually catering for it for the next time I do decide to do something for the tribe, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks.
I think building on that, Joyce had said something earlier with kind of like the little phrase. I forget exactly which one you were saying with something. Do you remember what you were talking about?
Smells don't get fed.
Yeah, that thing. That's like something I keep seeing with like sleeps. Or people with sleep, they like have like these things that they can refer to, and that's seems to be like, if this holds true into the future, like that's like what sleep is doing. I was actually thinking like, is there some kind of practice, Joyce, Uzair, I guess you guys are both sleep first, like that you guys do that you might give advice to us as all demon sleeps here, as to like how you use that kind of thing, but like if this holds true in my life moving forward, how it will become detrimental to me. Like, is there some kind of like practice you guys do, like, or is that just like that's so built into like what you guys think about moment to moment, and you're like, I can't expend energy on this because if I keep expending energy on this, I'll run out of energy. Like,
yeah, I think the way that I would so like what does like low energy feel like for me? It's not like, oh, I'm so tired. For me, it's just like I'm just like grumpy. You know what I mean? And so like, and my tolerance and patience for that sort of stuff, like things going off or like wasting time, is like so low. Just imagine if you're an old man and grumpy, like underslept, like how quickly you'd be like, no, not again. I'm not doing that again. You're like, you know what I mean? So like you're yeah, I would just imagine like I think it's great to have like lots of patience, and then it's also good to have like focus. And the best of both worlds is like for free play saviors is just that like just have patience for things that matter the most, right? Like because then you really unlock. I think it's maybe I'm biased against my stack, right? But it's just I think it's easier to focus than to build patience, right? Building patience is like I don't know how to do that. But like, yeah. So I would just ask just amp up like the things that you're a little bit annoyed at. Imagine you were way more annoyed at that, and then what would be the result of that? Like, would you stop doing those things, or would you stop hanging out with that person, or would you like focus on different activities? Just that would be my
It's
advice.
such like a concentrated NT way of doing it too. It's like, oh, just amp up like what you're annoyed by.
Yeah, when you have kind of like with NT sleep, if you have a great enough why, if you puzzle enough the best why, then you can use your energy wisely instead of spreading it everywhere and then having no aim for it. And then you're more exhausted trying to clean up aisle 8. It's like, oh, there's a spill in aisle 8. And I'm like, oh, I don't have enough energy to clean up aisle 8. So, philosophy is like, knowing how to disappoint the right people. You're always going to disappoint people, but who are the people who are right to disappoint? Allow me to anchor my life so then I can make better decisions. And so I don't need to sleep 10 hours a day.
Yeah, but I'll give even more blaster advice. I think that my advice for like the sleep lasts, or like this is OI advice, right? How to do OI. I think for blast last versus sleep last, it's a little bit different. Because like what Cole is saying, like I think what the sleep lasts are doing, they're doing blast instead of sleep, and so when you start spinning your wheels is when you're, instead of doing your last animal, you're doing the other animal, right? So instead of doing sleep, you're doing blast, and so now. In that case, it's like, oh, instead of getting insights for like, oh, what am I like, and what are my problems? You're like, oh, what are problems in society? What are people like? That's a way bigger problem to solve than just like, what am I like, right? And then conversely, for the blast last is just like you're having to deal with like a lot of like patience of the tribe, like, oh, talking to this person, instead of like maybe just directing them or saying no, or saying like pushing back a little bit, or like because yeah, so you'll end up doing like, but you have to do like a lot more play than if you just did like a little blast and kind of controlled or communicated what you wanted.
So I have a question.
Go for it.
I wanted to know, how do you guys, one of my most validating moments through OP is when the Stefan Speaks class and watching Dave and Shan befuddled over what SF Play is doing. And it seems such a natural thing to me. And I wanted to know what you guys, or how do you guys use your SF Play to your advantage, knowing that you have this ability to understand, what's valuable to the tribe. You guys tap into it. How do you use it to your advantage?
Ooh, what did they type Stefan Speaks as?
Cole.
Me.
Yeah.
Cole Stefan Speaks.
That's awesome. Oh, wow. How do you use your SF Play? Cole, this is a perfect question for you. It's your type twin.
Yeah, I would like to hear what you have to say first.
Oh, deflection, eh?
Yeah.
SF Play seems like that ability to kind of work with it, as I'm just observing Cole, and I'm kind of like the Jane Goodall, just recording what he's doing and just telling you what he's doing. He seems to have very personable insights, and it's really good for him to kind of like SF, like SEFE play in a way where a lot of people are able to see the same page that he's setting, and then he's able to kind of connect with people, even if they might have different values. They kind of feel like they have the same values, because what FP is really good at is kind of getting people to buy into things, even if like it takes a little bit to rein them in. So it's, I don't know, yeah. Cole, what are your thoughts?
You're making complete sense. Would you guys like to, because I think, okay, cool, let me explain a bit. Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying, it rings a lot of bells. And I guess it's like just being able to connect with literally almost anyone and find some sort of common ground. Because either I find that common ground either because I'm asking questions to make it seem like I want to find out, which I do. I genuinely do want to kind of I just want to find out what you're into, and also because it's there's a lot to talk about. Like there's never ending topics to talk about when it comes to like just communicating with another human being, and yeah, I guess that's just being able to connect and kind of do those type of things there. So I would like to hear from other people as well, because I think you guys can actually explain it a bit better. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in here. For me, SF play, you can basically encapsulate the whole thing in one word, and that's sales. You know, if you're in any kind of sales profession or anything that you have to get people to buy into, that's where it comes in. You meet people where they're at, you practice being a good listener, you find little things in common with them, and you know, this is all like, for me, it's TI strategizing and then coming up with the appropriate FE response to ultimately get what I want and hopefully get them what they want as well. So it's a win-win situation. And, you know, I guess misuse of SF play would be the classic used car salesman. And I think a good example of it would be successfully completing a successful business arrangement between two parties, you know, whether it's a political treaty or a sale that leaves the consumer and the seller happy, or even in a relationship, coming to an agreement about task they're going to do together, or something that they're doing together. So that's how I see it coming out. You're going back and forth, listening, talking, all to bring a kind of union of the minds and hearts. And that's the way I look at it.
How about you, Uzi?
I don't have it.
You know what? That's a you have it, bro. You do a good job, despite it being last. So I don't know what voodoo magic you got over there, man, but you do your thing.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think it's I maybe people don't wouldn't like it characterized in this way, but I think like where your extrovert functions are, that's where you're just kind of like you're a little bit you're just taking in, right? That's not where you're being creative. You're being creative in your introverted functions, right? And I think that it's like I very proudly say that I'm like hella basic about like my music taste, my all whatever taste, because in some ways I kind of relish in the fact that like yeah, my taste is basic, and that's why I kind of have a sense of like what everybody else is gonna vibe with, right? I'm not like hella unique. My reactions aren't hella like like special or whatever, and so like I'm a pretty good litmus test for like whether that joke is gonna be funny or whether like people are gonna like this or that music or whatever it is, right? I think maybe that's a little bit what SF play is. Not to call us all basic, but I don't know, maybe.
That's funny because I feel like that kind of shows in what way it's sort of a demon for you. Like it's just like, oh, I do like a little, and it's in like this really small space that I'm very comfortable with, right? So it's for me, I'm willing to like explore outside of that. It's like, oh, you like this kind of jokes? Oh, let me like try and understand like how to fit in with that. Like some people like different types of comedy. I've always been like somebody that's like really willing to like try and like, oh, people are laughing at this. Why? Like, let me try and like pull and understand what's going on over here. So that's a lot of what I'm doing with it as savior here. But I've always had taken issue with the sales thing because I feel like I don't want to make a recommendation for somebody. I guess that's like the blast part of play, which makes it not double activated for me, that I'm just like, I'm not like comfortable with going like, okay, now you choose this. I just want them to decide. I just like, it's like, I'll give you all this information. Like, if you're interested, like, I'll show you all this stuff. But like, I really want you to decide. So I just like get weird about that part. But just what play is for me, I know OP gets a lot of like hate for the way they present their definitions, mostly from SI people, I've noticed. But I really like the way you just kind of build up. It's like, it's chaos plus tribe. It's like what's changing with the tribe. And you're just like, you're tracking that and responding, going, pinging back and forth. That's really what it is. So it's, and then SF play in particular is like seeing the actual what that people are doing and like how they feel about that thing that they're doing. So and like jokes are very much a part of that. Like maybe I'm discovering a new kind of joke, and it's like, oh, that's kind of weird for me because that's like a new pattern, and it's interesting to me. So I want to like see a bunch of different kinds. Like if you see a new meme, it's like, oh, I want to see that meme a bunch of times, and then I'll like eventually make one. But yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, so I have a comment for all you guys, just watching you guys talk about SF play and personal development in general. First, I want to go to Uzair. Uzair is play last, it's SF, but like, dude, you're kicking everyone's ass. Like that's a fact. That's not like that's a cold hard fact. There's no IP that I know that is using play that is more than you, and you're play last. So you're, no offense to the other IPs, but you're definitely kicking all their asses. So that's good on you, man. Definitely growth mindset there. Cole, I interviewed Cole a while back, and the first half of their interview was me interviewing him, and then the second half was him interviewing me essentially. So he hijacked my interview. But what? It's all good, because like what I like about SF play in a saver state is it feels really nice, like from someone that is receiving the SF play. It's like, oh, you really sound like you really want to get to know me. I mean, I know Shane said that, yeah, you can also use it for evil purposes, like I use car salesman, but you can use it for good. So it depends on which direction you want to go with, right? So it sounds, from what I see from Cole's generally using it for good. He's not like an evil guy, I mean, we don't know that. I mean, he could be, and Ian's doing the clubhouse shit, so that's good blasting right there, blast, and he's like organizing shit. And sorry, I know you told me no profanity, but I just had to give you that.
You done failed the test, bro.
Yeah.
You are a like 3-4 in. It's
yeah. Yeah, with the Joyce stuff earlier. But anyways, yeah, and then Rob got his website and everything, which is like very TI, he's like organizing it and stuff. And Shane, and I last, but man, full of wisdom, man. Like you beat the wisdom of a lot of INFJs. No offense to the other INFJs there. Like it's just pure, it's like real life stuff, man. It's not even like fake stuff. The NF came from real life experience, which it's just everything you've said is like pure gold, pretty much. And then Joyce, yeah, what can I say? Interviewing 8 to 10 people at one time, for Mope, that's I don't know any Mope doing that except for you. So everyone here is doing, obviously everyone here has learned something from OPS and they're doing something with it that's empowering yourself. So I think that's super awesome. I have a few questions for you guys before we wrap up the interview. So it's gonna be a while. Joyce, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I have a question for everyone, and it's, who is your type twin or twins, and do you relate to them? Yes or no?
I don't have any 512 actually, but oh shoot, I forget his name. I don't know why I started talking. There's a few. Actually, I have a site for that, so you can put it in the comments.
Yeah, we'll give you a free shout out for your site.
But I mean, Thomas Alot's pretty close to me. Jake Johnson is the guy I was thinking of that people might know. He's the Nick from New Girl.
So Rob, why don't you say I'm your type twin or close to you?
Well, I mean, you're also close to me. That's true.
Yeah, but you guys are not the same. You get one decider and observer is a big difference.
It's a huge flip.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Rob and I are supposed to sit down and do a video about this together, but being blast last, both of us, it'll probably happen in 2023.
He was trying to be too controlling about it. Like, I want to have a plan. It's like,
I'm like, let's just do it, man. See what happens. I am Henry Cavill has been typed as my 512, and it's funny when I was typing him, I'm like, this guy's boring, and it was like I didn't. And I started asking people like, what did you get for him? They're like, I got you, and I'm like, what? So but actually studying him, I do see similarities with the him because he's so like attractive and stuff like that. Like he takes a lot of abuse from like women like hitting on him and stuff like that. Same with me, man. I get so much abuse from all these women hitting on me, and it's like I just gotta roll with it, right? So he just rolls with it, and in a lot of ways he's very like secretive and just like he's not giving off a lot about what's going on in his personal life, and it just leads to a lot of speculation and question as well. So I see that as well. Yeah, so that's the only one I have, and I do have a one who's like NEFE. Jacob, you interviewed Jacob Kendrick. Jacob there, he's NEFE, and I see a lot of similarities just with that as well. Me talking to him. Hopefully, I'll meet him at when everybody does New York.
Anderson Silva's your twin as well.
I keep forgetting about him. I have not looked into him yet. I don't know why, but I'll look into him too.
And yeah, that's the big decider observer difference. Like, I don't get hit on by women all the time, so
It's never enough, Rob.
helps having this.
Yeah, I don't. Well, first of all, Kendrick, thank you for the FE love for all of us. That's definitely good.
Yeah.
I also don't have an exact 512. I have like different modalities. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. But it's Al Gore and the people who I would never have thought of. Al Gore and like Dan Rather, who's this like very like dry interviewer. So I don't know what that says. But and there's also this like the CEO of the old CEO of Disney. His name is I forgot his name, but he just came up with the book. I was meant to read it, but he's also, you know, I had the same reaction. He's kind of like very like dry and like boring, like business guy. So I don't know. I'm waiting for my exact 512 type maybe.
Cool. Yeah. My type twins are YouTubers. So they're Silhouette and Thinker of Everything. Yeah, I relate to them. I also relate to standard INFJs too, though, like Stefan Speaks and Matthew Hussey. I just don't present like them. So I think like them. When I hear them talk, I'm like, I've exactly thought the same thing about the similar issues, and how you go about it is so similar, but they're so cool and I'm so not.
Cool.
Yeah. How about Shane and Cole?
Yeah. I have two type twins in the OPS database. One is Andrew Huberman. He's a scientist, neurology, and he's been on the Joe Rogan show. And I saw a lot of myself in him, and that was interesting. The other one is TD Jakes, the famous preacher. And I know he has a fashion style similar to mine. So I like seeing that there's other ESTPs out there who care about aesthetics as much as me. But both of those guys had good stories about coming to terms with sleep last and NI last. And once they got their vision aligned with their sense of action and industry and efficiency, they became unstoppable. And that's what I'm trying to emulate in my own life.
Don't you have a president as a type one?
No, both those guys are blast last.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't agree with their typings on either of those guys either. I mean, they're both ESTPs, but all the parts were the same with Andrew Huberman and TD Jakes, and
Okay.
I like both those guys. And I watch those videos from time to time to regain some specific insights of my own journey, and it's helpful. I like it.
The name of that president is not a profanity, Ian. Just kidding.
There's some people it is, man. That's why I'm not saying it.
All right.
You mean Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, we're talking about Steve Austin.
Let me, just for the record, I voted for Obama both times, but I did not vote in the last election. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, Cole, type twin.
So one of the type twins we kind of discussed already, Stefan Speaks. Who else? Another type twin in the community is Kevin Starkey. From what he said about me, he says that I seem a bit more play energy and like that. In terms of Stefan Speaks, I kind of relate to him, especially his communication style. Like if you go to his YouTube channel, because I've got a YouTube channel myself, and the way his hand movements, the way he kind of presents, and a lot of the times he's just speaking like face to face like this. but the only difference is the topics he speaks about. But I do relate to him in terms of the way he kind of communicates. In terms of other INFJs, I relate to, especially we usually come to the same conclusion. I can see how they got there. It's just the way I kind of go about doing it initially is different. But at the end of the day, it's like we kind of just all calibrate and kind of arrive at the same thing depending on whatever it is. So yeah, type twins there.
Yeah, Matthew Hussey, a double feminine, is also another dating coach.
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Yeah. And Darren Brown, he's a double feminine version of my type as well. I see similarities there as well. And there's a few for mine. Yeah.
Very cool. Oh, I got to give a shout out to Manny. He's not exactly my type twin at all because he's almost Joyce's type except MF. But he's the one person I related to a lot in OP. So you don't sometimes like to relate to people, like you don't need the exact type, but you just need like a lot of overlapping functions. So that's also pretty good.
So guys, I have some interesting questions for you. I'm really curious. So Joyce, when you're talking to Cole, you're both INFJs, but like you both live in different worlds of the INFJ. Like exact, like you guys have the each halves, right? How does it feel when you guys like talk to each other when it's like you're both INFJ, but like not really?
Joyce, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I thought Cole was super relatable, actually. He's just a well-presented version of my thoughts. So for me, it's like maybe I stumble, I stutter, but he's like the non-stumbling, non-stuttering version of, I don't know, a lot of qualities that I would aspire to have too. He's like Cole is like, he has the thoughts that I have, but he presents almost like a pseudo ENFJ because of his blast play. And so he has the charisma of like Martin Luther King Jr., but also like the thoughts of an NIFE. And it's really amazing to see.
With me observing you and just watching you, I think a lot of the times, like for example, I see you kind of come out like the thought process. You kind of give more of your thoughts right off the bat. With me, I kind of wait until I actually have communicated and just kind of played. If that makes sense. So I see you kind of giving more of your reasons up front, and we kind of know exactly what you're speaking about. If that makes sense, or what the conclusion you're trying to arrive at is initially.
Yeah.
And then mine, it just takes a longer for me. I think I just wait until I actually give the final whatever it is, the bullet point I'm trying to give.
Yeah, I tend to do that during the panels I host though. I turn into a Cole when I'm on my own channel, but when I'm on like a channel where they're trying to interview me, I'm like, all right, I'll try to give my thoughts.
Great. And then what about Shane and Ian? You guys are both ESTPs, but like you guys also live in different spectrum. Like one is like self above tribe, one's tribe above self, one's double masculine, one's double feminine. You know, like how do you guys, when you guys are talking to each other, how do you guys what do you guys see? What do you guys think? You know, how do you guys feel? You know?
Something I like to say a lot in the typology communities is if you had a party of 100 people, all of the same type, you would still have a lot of different personalities there. There's how many million people or billion people on the planet, and each of us, you take even an INFJ at 1 or 2%, you're still going to have thousands and thousands of people, right? And they're not all going to be the same. So I've come to step away from the initial stereotypes that got me in a mess when I was trying to type myself early on. So when I see other people with, a little bit different perspectives than me, or using different functions in slightly different ways, I have a mechanism where I can just sort of construct it in such a way to make sense. So even though I might see him as more, FE than me, a little bit more mature with that function than me, I still have it double activated. So it's going to show up in me just as much. It's just hit or miss with me. What I'm trying to say is there's a place for variety within the constructs of a particular type, and it should be that way. And I think online we see too oftentimes people almost staging themselves to be the extreme stereotypes of a particular type that they have understood themselves as being. And I think it's harmful to the community in general, because what happens is you have people just trying to, really showboat and be an extreme, and then it distorts the perspective for people new to it. And we're going to be taken less seriously than we would like to be, as long as that's prevalent in the communities. So that's basically what I have to say about it.
And when I like listening to Shane, like, so if we were to, there's like an archetype of an ESTP, like it would be closer to Shane than me, definitely. I think if you're part of that ESTP group on Facebook, I think most people, that's the profile that they're looking for. The more the masculine sensory, the double masculine play. And for me, I don't feel like, I don't relate to that extreme, and I don't feel like I have a home in traditional MBTI. I didn't, right? So I see the just through typing other people, seeing the variety across all of the types, and just having that respect for it. And that's the one thing I am thankful about OP, is just being able to be able to call out that spectrum and give everybody a place. But just, again, just kind of like narrowing it down, I think he kind of fits the prototype more than I do.
Well, and I'd like to say that's all relative. Some of you know a guy, I'll call him out, Flow State, Taylor Briggs. To me, he's the stereotypical ESTP. When I think of ESTP, I think of him, but just because he fits that differently than I fit it, he's from the Midwest, I'm from LA, we have different professions. We're going to come out looking different, even though I think we have the same parts going on. And
what's his type?
Taylor Briggs.
What's his OP, his type?
He hasn't been officially typed, but I would think he's the same as me. Same
Okay.
part. SETI, consume, play, blast, sleep probably last. But if you don't know him, look him up. He's a cool guy, and stereotypical ESTP, SLE in socionics. Great guy, has a good channel. And the reason I bring him up is just to make a certain point. Everyone can look over their shoulder at someone else and say, well, they fit the profile more than me, or they fit the profile less than me. And I think that kind of comparing ultimately isn't fruitful. It'll just get you down a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. And there's room in typology for different people of the similar or even same type. And that's the point I'm trying to make.
All right, and then the last question I have is Rob and Uzair. So you guys live in different worlds. Like one is the self world, one is the tribe world. When you guys talk to each other, I mean, you guys have probably spoken to each other a few times already. How do you guys what's going on in your head when you guys like talk to each other? Like, are you like very curious, like, oh my God, like what's it like to be in that world? Because like you live in that world. I don't even know what that world is like, Like, so what are you guys like thoughts and feelings on that?
Can't help but think that that's like a very any way to think about how we're thinking about each other.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out. Yeah.
It's a weird decider question also. We haven't had a chance to talk too much, but hopefully we will at some point. I think that actually we mostly interacted in these things that you set up, Kendrick, and I think I guess I normally feel like, oh, I think I'm like pretty, like nice with the tribe and stuff, and then in contrast I'm like, oh, I'm kind of actually not that nice in contrast, or like maybe I will.
In contrast to me, you mean? Or...
Yeah, I think like in my head I'm like kind of what Joyce was talking about, like, oh, I try to avoid sharing my opinion, even though it might be a little bit harsh or whatever, right? And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not doing that much as I think, in contrast?
Hmm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, so all I could think about was how like that's like an any way to ask the question. He's like thinking like, are you thinking about what it would be like to be this other person? Like it's just like, are you doing this any like pretending doing a simulation to be you? And I don't feel like I am really like a lot of what I'm doing is kind of being like, okay, is like everybody contributing like how is everybody feeling in relation to each other in this? So like is there's a part of that, but and he's a very significant part.
Thank you.
But he is just a part of that. So like if he would seem to be domineering the conversation, I would be like kind of wary and maybe just like triggered by that in some way, you know, like it's like, oh, and maybe I would feel kind of helpless in this situation where I can't just like step in. It's kind of weird on a web call to like feel like, hey, you're talking too much or something, but
Yeah.
not that I thought you were. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
But
maybe like the question is almost like youth, like I think because of your type, you must have thought you were some kind of introverted type, right? At some point, did you consider being like an ISTP or like some kind of like IP at some point?
I didn't really think I was an IP now. I thought I was NETI consume play, and then people watched my video and thought I was mopey, so they were like consume
Oh.
sleep. But yeah, then I got typed by David Chan, and it was like very different from. And that has a lot to do probably with my functions and how I'm like portraying my self-image of myself out to other people, and I'm good at controlling that potentially, and confusing people and making it hard for them to know me. And that's like a decider thing too, which you know it's a whole other conversation. But
Yeah, that's interesting.
and also if I don't know that about myself, it's hard to even convey it.
Wow, that was super interesting. Like you guys had like a decider talk going on there. Like it's definitely interesting. All right, guys. Thanks for coming out and joining everyone here for the panel interview. I hope that you learned something from each other. You know, being all in the same quadrant, different variations, of course. So thanks again, guys, for coming out. Yeah, I hope that everyone who watched this learned something about these guys. I'll be putting all you guys' like social what do you call it, like a bunch of your YouTubers and whatnot. So and then Rob has his own website, so I'll link it all below so everyone can check that out as well. All right, guys, take care.
Thank you so much.
Right, thanks.